and we get some building wood and firewood from our woods, so we're really lucky to have woods to supply us with firewood, which we use a lot of. But I'm showing you this because we have a hand winch that brings it up the slope, which is like that, which is why the woods are probably still here, because it's on a steep slope. So we hand winch it up to the top track and then drag it probably behind a landy or something like that. Then that's been debarked, and this dwelling here has, the uprights are all an oak trunk. I'm not actually going to show you in that house because the dog's chilling out in there and I haven't got the shower or something. But so it's a carbon roundwood house with a turf roof. It's got a reciprocal roof, which you can see in my house when we go around. So that's one style.
What does reciprocal mean when it's done to a house?
It's where the roof poles are lying on top of each other, and the more weight you have, they lock.
So it gets stronger, yeah.
So they go into the middle, and you end up with a kind of hole in the middle that you have to cover. One more. Let's move around here because I'm not sure she's awake yet.
I want to see Cooper again. That.
It took 40 years, but then they yield these gigantic, like bigger than chestnut nuts.
The most nutritious on the planet. I know. I've tried growing them.
Yeah.
You also need a male and a female, and you can't tell that for about 20 years.
Monkey puzzles.
Yeah. No, it's probably not 20 years, but you know, it's
I think it is about that long.
a bit of an art. Yeah, so you get a better idea of the green and the windbreaking, which we've just pruned. So what we did in the beginning was to plant Italian alder, which are these taller trees behind you, and they're nitrogen fixing, fast growing trees, and they are sheltering some slower growing bushes and trees underneath. So there's a layering, which is another kind of permaculture thing, using the vertical as well as the horizontal plane. And it's got to the point now where the alders were quite big, so we've just cut some of them down and can use those, and that will give some light over the summer to the trees underneath. So we're in the kind of second stage now of that bit of windbreaking around the field.
How often do you guys sit down and think what needs to be done next?
Well, we have meetings every week, so there's fairly constant communication.
Yeah. Do you have like some sort of yearly plan, so you know roughly?
Oh wow! Look at that! Look at that! Joseph, what plant? Chard.
Chard.
Yeah.
Even that? Even kind of ready?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's rainbow chard. Yeah. So these are more communal beds for communal veg, which feeds our 3 communal meals a week, and volunteers and visitors. And if there are courses, sometimes we host residential courses for a week or 2 weeks, and when we know that's going to happen, we grow these beds here especially for the courses, and then sell the veg to their kitchen. So similar thing, the raised beds, and we just made these little bed huts, just for some protection, really, against wind and rain, and just to try and warm the soil up, because it's been so cold, really. Last year was the most appalling growing season because it was so cold.
Do you think it'll be terrible this year again?
I don't know. I'm really hoping not.
It was so cold and then it was so wet last year.
But if you're thinking of growing something and you've just got a small area, this is chard. It's obviously a very green leafy vegetable, so it's very good for you. And this has come all the way through the winter. And we'll start, obviously that looks a bit sad, but this is the new growth coming up. It's fantastically hardy, doesn't take up much space, and gives you fresh leaves. So even if you're in a little flat in town or something, and it can put a big flower pot outside your door, this is rainbow chard. It has different colours. There's yellow, orange and red, so it's quite pretty. You can just have a pot of that outside your door and you've already got your greens. And you cut the leaves and then they regrow.
Oh wow. Pick and come again.
Yes.
Do you know what roughly percentage of food that you all consume that you grow yourselves?
As a very rough estimate, on a normal kind of growing season, we reckon that between May and October we can feed ourselves with veg. And then there's the milk from the goats and an increasing amount of eggs. And people make cheese and yoghurt from the milk as well. And I'll show you, we grow salad and soft fruit. Commercially sounds a bit grand, but we grow it to sell. So we can also supply ourselves with salad on top of what people grow in their gardens. And then there's sort of wild food from the hedges and things like that. So with that question is always about, and it's the same when people ask whether we manage to provide enough energy for ourselves with the solar panels and things. It's like, how much is enough? And you can feed yourself from the land, providing that you don't want things that either don't grow or that you haven't planted. And if you want to carry on buying things from the shops because you want that particular item or veg or whatever, then you won't be feeding yourself from the land. And with the energy, it's, well, are you going to play computer games till 2 in the morning, or are you actually going to go to bed at 9 and wake up with the sun? That defines whether you provide enough power for yourself. There's the balance between, with this kind of change of lifestyle, you don't have to decrease your quality of life, but you do have to reduce your consumption and the things that you want. And this place has changed me in terms of what I appreciate, what feeds me, what kind of nurtures me, what I get joy from. And those things tend to not use that much electricity anymore because it's not there. So, you raise your productivity as the years go by on the land, but also your kind of needs change and diminish.
Are you sort of doing that because we're trying to introduce the children and people of inner city Bristol to have a sort of switch off day to appreciate weather. You're sort of doing it out of slight necessity, but you've got that, and we're trying to apply it to an everyday sort of life thing, just to give people the idea of what you were saying, really. And
I mean, the switch
slightly
off,
harder when it's all the gadgets are there, aren't they? I suppose.
it is, the switch off thing is, that's a bit cold turkey really, and you're sitting looking at them and just waiting for your switch off day to end. and then you know that, tomorrow you can charge your phone and all that kind of thing.
Although to be fair, it's not really computers that drain the energy, it's toasters and kettles and tumble dryers.
But then you have to have the alternative in place. So we're all set up for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if I was in a flat, I wouldn't have a storm kettle or the wood handy, or so that's quite tough. And what has changed us really is our relationship with the land, and it's there needs to be an alternative in place, and it's a personal change really, as well as some education about why it's necessary to do that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the first big steps, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for kids in Bristol, if you take them out to the woods for the day, or out in the hills, then they're going to be using less electricity than if they're staying at home, because they're doing something else.
Yeah.
And they're otherwise occupied. So.
Well, I think we're getting to the stage now where it's quite a fundamental thing is educating them.
Yeah. An alternative is
Just a little
necessary.
bit of alternative stuff. So.
Yeah.
Right.